A rabbit's front teeth grow somewhere around 3 inches a year. That single fact is the reason almost every dental problem I see in this practice exists in the first place. It is also the reason a healthy set of teeth depends far more on what happens in the hutch and the kitchen than on anything that happens inside my consulting room. By the time a rabbit is sitting in front of me with a dental problem, the setup at home has usually been working against it for months already. Most owners never hear that growth number at all. They picture rabbit teeth the way their own work. Something that finishes growing in childhood and then simply needs cleaning now and then for the rest of life. A rabbit's teeth are nothing like that. Every tooth in that mouth, not just the two you can see at the front, never stops growing for the rabbit's entire life. That is not a defect, it is the design. It means the whole system depends on constant, correct wear to stay in balance. Every single day, with no days off, for a rabbit that might live 8, 10, or even 12 years in your home. I am Finn. I work with exotics and small mammals, and dental disease is one of the conditions I see arrive latest and hit hardest in this species. A rabbit is built to hide pain until it genuinely cannot hide it any longer, and teeth sit far enough back in the mouth that an owner rarely gets an early, obvious warning without knowing exactly where to look. Here's the mechanism, because understanding it changes how you feed and watch your own rabbit for the rest of its life. A rabbit's teeth are called open-rooted or continuously growing. Both the front incisors and the back cheek teeth, the molars and premolars a rabbit actually uses to grind its food, share this same trait. In the wild, a rabbit spends most of its waking hours grazing on tough, fibrous, silica-rich grasses. The sideways grinding, chewing motion that diet demands wears the teeth down at almost exactly the same rate they grow. It is a closed loop, wear-matching growth that has worked for millions of years across an entire species built around exactly this diet. Bring that same rabbit into a home and feed it mostly pellets and soft treats, and that loop breaks. Pellets require almost no grinding. A rabbit can eat a full bowl of pellets with barely any of the sideways jaw movement that wears teeth down naturally. The teeth keep growing at the same rate regardless of what is eaten. Growth does not slow down to match a softer diet. Growth without matching wear is where every problem on this list begins, and it begins quietly, months before anything is visible from outside the mouth. Age matters here too. A young rabbit still growing its own jaw is establishing lifelong chewing habits in its first year. That is exactly when a correct hay first setup matters most. An older rabbit, especially one past 6 or 7, may start chewing less simply from reduced energy or early joint stiffness. That quietly reduces wear at exactly the age when dental problems become more likely, not less. I want to walk through 10 things that tell you a rabbit's teeth are already heading in the wrong direction, often months before most owners would ever notice on their own. Along the way, I will cover what actually drives the cost, and the setup fixes that matter most. Number 1. A diet built around pellets instead of hay. This is the single biggest driver of dental disease I see, by a wide margin. Hay should make up the great majority of a rabbit's daily intake, not pellets. Not because hay is simply healthier in the abstract, but because the long, tough strands of grass hay force that grinding, sideways chewing motion that pellets never require. A rabbit fed mostly pellets can look perfectly healthy on the outside for a long time while its molars quietly grow past where they should be underneath. There is often no visible sign at all for the first several months of this pattern. Unlimited grass hay, available at all times, is the single cheapest and most effective thing an owner can do for a rabbit's teeth. A large bag of good quality grass hay typically costs less across a full month than a single week of premium pellets, and it does most of the actual dental work on its own. The specific detail worth knowing: not all hay wears teeth equally well. Coarse, long-stemmed grass hay, Timothy or orchard grass, does far more grinding work than very soft, finely cut or leafy hay, even though both are technically hay. Number 2. Selective eating, where a rabbit picks out the soft pellets or treats from a mixed bowl and leaves the hay behind. Owners often tell me their rabbit gets plenty of hay because they put plenty in the bowl. What matters is not what goes into the bowl, it is what actually goes into the rabbit. A rabbit that has learned it can fill up on the tastiest, softest items first, will often ignore hay entirely once its stomach is satisfied, even with hay sitting right beside it the whole time. This habit can build silently over months without an owner ever noticing the pattern. The fix costs nothing beyond a small change in routine. Offer hay first in the morning before any pellets or treats are given for the day, so a genuinely hungry rabbit has to engage with it. Measure the pellet portion instead of leaving a bowl topped up, since a rabbit with unlimited pellets available has far less reason to bother with hay at all. Number 3. Drooling, or a permanently damp chin and front paws. This is often the earliest visible sign that molars in the back of the mouth have started growing unevenly or developing sharp points called spurs that can rub or cut the inside of the cheek or tongue. Excess saliva escapes the mouth rather than being swallowed normally. That saliva soaks the fur under the chin and on the insides of the front paws, since a rabbit uses those paws to groom its own face constantly through the day. A once soft, dry chin that stays visibly wet for more than a day or two is the detail worth acting on. A damp, matted chin is never just a grooming issue on its own. It is a signal worth booking a dental check for, even if your rabbit is still eating normally and seems otherwise fine in every other way. Number 4. Weight loss, or a rabbit that is eating less than it used to, especially of hard foods. Rabbits are prey animals, and prey animals hide pain as a survival instinct, since showing weakness in the wild draws a predator's attention. A rabbit in genuine dental discomfort rarely stops eating outright. Instead, it eats less, eats more slowly, or quietly shifts towards softer foods and avoids anything that requires real chewing effort. This shift can be almost invisible day to day and only obvious once you compare numbers over time. Weekly weighing on an ordinary kitchen scale is the single most reliable way to catch this shift before it becomes visible to the eye. Weight often drops before behavior obviously changes, and a scale catches grams that your own eyes simply cannot. If you want more quiet warning signs like these before a rabbit's pain becomes obvious, subscribe to the channel. Number 5. Visible overgrowth of the front incisors. This is the sign every owner already knows to look for, and it is genuinely the last one to appear, not the first. By the time the front teeth are visibly too long or growing at an odd angle, the underlying cause has usually been building for weeks already, often months. Front teeth are also the easiest to see and the easiest for an owner to check safely at home with good lighting, which makes this the one worth a monthly look even if nothing seems wrong at all. Compare both sides against each other, since an even matched pair is what you want, not a fixed length. Number 6. A jaw shape that predisposes certain rabbits from birth. Some breeds, particularly the smaller flat-faced dwarf and lop breeds, are simply built with a jaw structure that makes even correct tooth wear harder to achieve no matter how good the diet is. The jaw itself sits slightly out of line in these breeds from the day they are born. If your rabbit is one of these breeds, diet alone will not always fully solve the problem, however good the hay routine is. It means more frequent vet checks, perhaps twice a year rather than once, are worth the added cost as routine prevention rather than something to only consider once a visible problem shows up. Number 7. Reduced grooming and a scruffy, unkempt coat. Mouth discomfort makes grooming itself uncomfortable. A rabbit that is quietly avoiding using its mouth to groom will start to look matted or unkempt in a way that seems completely unrelated to teeth at first glance. Owners often bring this up to me as a coat problem or a shedding problem on its own, unconnected to anything else. It turns out to be the mouth the whole time, and the coat change was simply the first thing anyone actually noticed. Number 8. An abscess, a firm swelling. Anywhere along the jawline. Left unaddressed long enough, uneven tooth growth and the sharp spurs it produces can lead to infection and abscess formation in the jaw. This is not a fast process. It typically takes weeks or months of unresolved dental strain to reach this point. Rabbit abscesses behave differently from what most owners expect from other pets. They form thick-walled pockets that are genuinely difficult and costly to resolve once established, often requiring repeated vet visits rather than a single fix. This is the single most expensive outcome on this entire list, and it is also the most preventable, since it develops from small, ordinary dental changes that had months of warning before ever reaching this stage. Number 9. What an actual dental check, and if needed a filing procedure under anesthesia, tends to cost, and why catching this early changes that number completely. A straightforward dental check with your vet, teeth examined under good light with no anesthesia required, typically runs somewhere in the range of a modest office visit, often comparable to a routine wellness check. If active overgrowth or spurs are already present, correcting them usually requires a short anesthetic procedure so the vet can work safely and painlessly inside the mouth. That procedure carries a meaningfully higher cost, often several times the price of the early check alone, since it involves anesthesia monitoring and specialist equipment a simple office visit does not. Caught early through the signs above, most rabbits need this only occasionally across a full lifetime. Caught late, it can become a recurring expense every few months that never fully resolves because the underlying uneven wear pattern keeps reasserting itself once it has been established for long enough. Number 10. Chew toys that are marketed as dental care but do very little of the actual work. Wooden chew toys and cardboard tunnels are genuinely good enrichment and rabbits enjoy them, but they are not a substitute for hay. The volume and grinding motion involved simply does not compare to hours of daily grazing on long strand hay. Treat this category as enrichment and entertainment, worth having for its own sake, never as your actual dental plan. Hay is the plan. Toys are a bonus on top of it. One more thing worth knowing if you keep two rabbits together, since bonded pairs are common and this detail catches people out. A healthy rabbit in a pair will often eat more than its share of the hay pile, and a struggling rabbit can quietly eat less without the total amount of hay in the enclosure appearing to change at all. Watching the pile shrink is not the same as watching each individual rabbit eat. If you have a bonded pair, weigh both rabbits separately every week, not just the pair together, and watch each one's own trend line rather than assuming a full hay rack means both animals are actually using it. This single detail catches problems in paired rabbits weeks earlier than simply glancing at the enclosure and seeing hay still sitting there. It costs nothing beyond 2 minutes of separating them briefly once a week for the scale. Here is something worth doing tonight, and it takes about 2 minutes. Sit your rabbit on your lap or a towel on a table, gently lift the lips at the very front, and look at the 2 upper and 2 lower incisors. You are checking that they meet evenly, roughly the same length on both sides, with no obvious chip, crack, or unusual angle. This will not show you the back molars, which genuinely require a vet's light and tools to check properly. But the front teeth, the chin, and a hands-on feel along the jawline for any firm swelling are all things you can screen for safely at home. No equipment needed beyond your own hands and a good lamp on the same night you watch this video. Turn that 2-minute check into a routine rather than a one-time thing, and it stops taking any real effort at all. Once a week, weigh your rabbit on an ordinary kitchen scale and write the number down somewhere you will actually see it again. Once a month, add the front tooth and chin check onto the same day, so it becomes one habit rather than 2 separate things to remember. Twice a year, book an actual vet check even if nothing looks wrong, since a vet's light and tools reach places your own hands cannot. Hay comes into this too, beyond simply having it available. Buy in a size that lets you check freshness easily. Old dusty hay gets picked over and wasted far more than fresh hay does, quietly undoing the whole point of having it there in the first place. A rabbit that turns its nose up at hay is often responding to quality, not simply being fussy for no reason. Fresh hay should smell faintly sweet and green, never musty or flat. If it smells like nothing at all, it has likely been sitting too long already. Put that full routine together and you have 3 habits: weekly weighing, monthly mouth and jaw checks, and a twice-yearly vet visit. Between them, they catch the overwhelming majority of dental problems while they are still cheap, simple, and completely comfortable to fix. Before I close, one thing I want to mention once. My practice put together a full written guide to hay setup, safe chew options, and a printable weekly weighing log, everything covered today laid out so you are not trying to remember 10 points from a single video. It is linked below this video if you want it. That is the only mention I will make of it. If you take one thing from this video, make it the lips check tonight, not next week. 2 minutes, good light, and a look at how those front teeth actually meet each other. Catching this early is the difference between a routine, inexpensive check and a procedure that costs many times more and tends to keep coming back once it starts. If you see drooling, a damp chin, a lump along the jaw, or a rabbit eating noticeably less than usual, that is not a wait-and-see situation. Call your rabbit savvy vet the same day you notice it, not once you have watched and waited to see if it gets worse on its own. Dental problems in this species rarely improve on their own, and waiting almost always turns a simple check into a bigger, costlier procedure. Your rabbit is depending on you to notice what it cannot tell you directly.